You're on.
Usually like Delta's like 30 bucks. If you got to do them fly. Get those things this time.
Sandy will not be here.
Yeah, I figured you would. All right, let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and call the work session of the Kingston City Council to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand. Mr. Brown, if you would lead us in invocation. Ms. Humphrey, if you would lead us in pledge of the flag.
Pray with me, please. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with special request. We ask that you keep your loving arms around the Troy Beats family with Miss Carolyn and also the Goss family and their loss of a loved one. But most of all, we ask that you help our world leaders. We always pray for you to help us as we make the decisions for our constituencies. But our world is in trouble. We ask that you touch those people who have the authority to help the people and just give you praise. We know that you have a plan for everything that happens in this country and this world. But once again, we just thank you for being taking care of us in everyday life, and we give you praise every day. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Do we have any citizens that wish to address the council tonight?
My name is April Hamilton. I am the business owner at Heaven's Gift Boutique in Kingston. And I am requesting to host a spring fling celebration. And in that request, I would like to utilize the courthouse parking lot to place the vendors, the food trucks, and things of that nature. In that request, I have requested that we shut down just a small portion of North 3rd Street where it meets East Cumberland and Highway 70. That is what I'm here for. The date is May 14th. We would like to allow vendors to start setting up at 7 a.m. for the event to transpire from 10 to 4.
Why would be the purpose of shutting down North 3rd Street? I mean, what just
That would just allow the pedestrians that free walkway right through there to cross over into the courthouse parking lot. If they parked on the old side of the courthouse or on the outskirts, then crossing over North 3rd, they're not crossing into traffic to get over to the event.
well, if you block North 3rd Street and you block there at Court Street, and Court Street being a one-way street, that's going to pretty much shut that street down too.
I just want to shut there at Court Street and 3rd, not the entire Court Street. Let them have that for parking.
Right, but it's one way.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's no way for them to get out.
no way for them to get out.
They either got to turn left or right when they get to 3rd Street.
Right. The reason for, again, that was just going to be for parking purposes over there was my thoughts. So.
If they park, they can't get out. That's the problem. You've got, I don't know if the utility is open that day with their drive-through payments for the gas company. So there's a drive-through and they have to come off of Ray Street and then they have to turn right on Court Street and then they're stuck.
It's a Saturday. I don't think they're open.
But the drive-through is always open.
Okay.
Have you spoken to them?
I haven't, no, sir. I'm actually going on previous events that's transpired. The same thing happens every year for the spring fling. They shut that, or the one that Kingston puts on, they shut that road down there. So that was just kindly my,
We shut Court Street down when we do that, but you've not asked for that.
no, sir, I have not.
And then Hands of Mercy also, I don't know what they do. And they're under new management, maybe the chief, well, he's gonna give us something on it, on the whole thing, I guess.
Are your vendors going to set up in the county courthouse parking lot?
That's the request, yes.
Have you talked to the county?
I had to go, I've met with Mr. Bowling and then needed to come here to this session and then the county's next.
Okay.
I have not made this available to any vendors at this time.
Okay.
No one is aware of the event until I received approval from council and the county.
But if you don't have approval from the county, then ours doesn't really matter, right?
Yes, that's correct. This is just the process I was told to follow.
Let's see what the county gives you and then come back.
Okay.
And we'll figure something out and make it work.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
But all right,
And consider just reducing the request down from Court Street to Third Street, or to Cumberland.
Cumberland.
Okay.
And
I mean,
if
that's
they don't
totally
let
doable.
people
I
can
just,
still get out to get there, and that would still leave the courthouse open and let them walk across the street if they wanted to, so.
okay. I mean, and that's fine. I was just trying to just think about pedestrians and,
Right. And of course, we want to help. It's just, if you can get the courthouse, then we'll
that's,
work around everything else.
And then if you check with those business people to make sure it's all, we don't want to shut up another business out for another business, is where I'm coming from. That's the reason, since you've not talked to them at all. Hands of Mercy, the gas company, the lawyer's office that are down there. Because again, it's going to shut, if we go with your plan, it shuts down Court
It
Street.
shuts Court Street down, yeah.
okay. And again, I'm completely open to just doing that small portion.
Okay.
Thank you.
And speaking on that, do we, not,
Okay.
not for you, April. Do we know when the spring fling, or spring,
Spring Fest, April 2nd, JR, correct? The 23rd,
That kills me.
it got moved.
Okay. Okay.
April 23rd.
Does anyone else wish to address the council? Mr. Hamilton, would you like to address the council at this time? Yeah.
So I don't know if David had spoken to y'all, but I was contacted yesterday by Mr. Tommy Spakes. He owns some property at 138 Orchard Road. He is having some problems. He's got an apartment building there. It's got 3 units in it. He's having some trouble out of his field line. He had contacted the state inspector to get a request for a repair permit on it. The inspector come out and told him that he would be denying him a repair permit because he does not have enough room to put a reserve system in. So in this conversation with Tommy, he expressed interest to me that he would like to get on city sewer. He also informed me that the state inspector had told him that the apartment buildings on the other side of him, which consists of 4 more buildings, that they would not be giving repair permits to them also, that if their field lines ever failed. So I made contact with the state inspector, and everything Mr. Spakes told me, the state inspector reiterated with it. So I went out this morning and done some measuring just to see if it was possible that, we could maybe serve him or whatever with what he was requesting. 842 feet is what I came up with, I think, from Longville Road, where the closest sewer is available to him. In the process, if we'd done that, it would probably gain us about 10 customers. Or we could go from Longville on up to Woodmont Lane, and which would be about 1,400 total feet, and it would gain us 28 customers. So Mr. Spakes is in a sort of a predicament, and it's one of those predicaments where he's got to do something in a quickly manner. I told him that I would be more than happy to come to y'all and see if it was something that y'all would be interested in maybe providing him, and then I would report back to him and see what we could do. I explained to him that this would not be an overnight fix. We would have to go through all the proper channels in order to get it.
Right. Well, I think the best thing would be to get an estimate and then let us look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah, I think, we've kind of taken a first step in expanding our sewer system in the cases where we've made it available, where infrastructure's in place. But, as we talk about growth, I think, we've got to look at sewer expansion outside the city, and there's really no reason not to anymore. Like Kevin said, if we go a little farther, we have the potential to pick up almost 30 customers. Yeah, we're going to have some expense on the front end, but you've grown your customer base.
Right.
So I think, and we're going to see more and more of this. We know that the state is looking for reasons not to approve septic systems where sewer could be available. So there's just going to be more and more, and this is a chance for us to grow. So yeah, I agree. I think, the biggest thing we wanted to accomplish tonight is just to make sure that we didn't get heated objection to it. And, if you seem to be open to the idea, then we can move forward and actually get some more concrete numbers and see what we're dealing with. We just didn't want to go too far if you all said absolutely not. So
I don't see anybody.
No.
Mr. Brown.
How far was the extension when we went to Galilean?
If I'm not mistaken, Tony, I think it was a little bit less than 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
That cost
Half.
us, how much, was that 20-something thousand?
I want to think. I believe.
I'm like 24 or something.
Yeah, I believe I don't have that I don't have that exact number in front of me, and I have to go back and.
it was less than 30. It was less than 30.
Yeah, I was just trying to try to break down a cost here per foot.
Yeah, and I think we have a couple different options here with this sewer. Just saying this, my preference would probably be go low pressure to where they would have to put a pump in. It would, of course, be more cost efficient for us. Just a rough ballpark idea right now. I mean, I can tell you, I don't know this exact, but this is just a ballpark. We're probably looking somewhere at least $4 to $6 a foot for the pipe. And of course, we have other options. I mean, we could install ourselves. But once again, there's a bunch of hoops that we're gonna have to go. And like I say, I have no problem getting y'all a concrete, or getting you a roundabout estimate, but I would just, if you don't mind, if you could just give me a time frame when you wanted it by, that way.
Would their cost be from the building to the street?
Yes, and if they would be responsible, if we did go with the low pressure, it would be their responsibility to put those pumps in at their cost and maintain.
And when we extended it, everybody there has to hook up to it under state law?
We think. Well, from what I've been told from the state inspector, if sewer is available, and I just got into this situation on Galhar Road the other day with a lady, from my understanding, if there's city sewer there, the state inspector's just saying, we will not do a repair permit, you're getting on.
I spoke with Mr. Spakes today, and he definitely is in a tough spot. The fact that there are 4 more apartment complexes past his, it would only make sense if we do this to go all the way to Woodmont. And there are several residences even before you get to the apartment complexes. So, and I think you are correct. They can have their sewer now, but once it needs to be fixed and they have to get a permit to repair, the state will require them to attach.
Even if we don't get all 28 at once, we
Right.
will get them eventually.
Right.
And, this is one of those rare pockets where we have room to grow. So
Yeah, well, I would go ahead and give the estimate all the way up to Woodmont, the whole place.
Okay.
It'll be fine, and we can go from there.
And would you like that as soon as I can get that?
It'll be fine. He can send it, David can email it to us. If it's before Tuesday night, we can always bring it up in the water board.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thanks,
Thank you, Kevin.
Anyone else wishing to discuss anything with the council tonight? All right, item 4 is continued discussion of city boards and committee meetings. Councilman Brown.
I'm just gonna give a speech and then gonna withdraw it. Again, I just think it, I never dreamed that anybody would even whisper a peep. But I am anxiously awaiting the minutes from all 3 of the committees to see who voted against and for not showing the public their meetings. So, and I understand we don't have any minutes yet from any of the 3 that we talked about, or coming up Tuesday night? So I'd move not to put that on to drop it, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor.
Any
Don't
other,
need to move it, I just don't want to put it.
any other further discussion on that? All right. Number 5, discussion of setting a, a day and time for meetings for the BZA, which is the Board of Zoning Appeals. This came to up before. We've not had many appeals on any of our zoning, but it seems like we're having to call meetings every other week now. So I want to, I guess, amend the ordinance and add that it be the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 5:30. You think 5? Which is the same day as the planning commission meeting.
That
And that
works
will
out
set
good.
it up, everything up on a monthly basis, that, you know, if somebody's got an appeal, they've got a certain amount of time to get it in so we can do it. But I've not talked to anybody on the BZA about it yet. I'll make those calls this week and see if that's an issue. So unless anybody's got any heartbeat with that, I'll put it on there. Okay?
You want this on the agenda for next week?
Yes. I'm assuming Sandy will have to write up something new to add to the ordinance.
Yeah, we'll have
Just the way
to,
it-
we'll have to amend that. And, you know, obviously, if there's no business to come before the BZA, they won't meet.
Right.
But at least this will help a lot in trying to get a quorum. You know, it's hard for members to guarantee they'll be available when a meeting could be any random date. So
Right.
it'll help a lot with that. But yeah, I'll get with Sandy. I won't be able to get with him tomorrow. But if by chance he can't have this ready by next week, then I don't know how long he's going to be down, but we can have it, you know, by April at
Okay.
worst case. So
We've got how many, 3 members of the planning commission that's on the BZA, at least 2.
Just one.
Just mayor.
Yeah.
Which this will be good for planning commission as well. That way we can be more informed on what is being
happened
changed in
before, yeah.
BZA.
To see what
Yeah.
field they could get there early.
Right.
And our planner will be here anyway.
That's
on that,
right.
so.
They don't have
Even
any
better.
problems with having it video, do they?
No,
BZA,
it's
no,
always
it's-
videoed in here.
One day.
It is. All right, so we'll put that on there.
Smart aleck.
So item 6, discussion of reallocating $500,000 earmarked for repairs of the running track for various parks and rec projects. Turn it over to Mr. Bowling and Mr. Best.
So JR's here, and I'll let him jump in a minute, and we can answer your questions. But we've been thinking about this, as you know, when we did the bond issue. A lot of, you know, we plugged in a number. We knew that we needed to do work on the track. We've known that for a long time. We didn't really know what. I mean, we've gotten estimates before. We've looked at various things. So we plugged in $500,000 for that, which, you know, to do that now, of course, you'd probably be higher than that. But, you know, the thought with that would be that would get us more in the complete mill down, rebuilding neighborhood. And that, again, you know, that was a couple years ago. Now it'd probably be $650,000, the prices. But so we've been talking about what could be the best use of that money, and again, knowing that we need to do something to the track and keeping that as item number 1, where could we go from there? So JR and I have spent quite a bit of time looking at some of the needs that we have in our park system that have been neglected, that we just haven't had the funding to do, and could this be an opportunity to maximize that money? So we came up with a list, and obviously these are all estimates, but we came up with what we feel like are some of the top priorities that we could use for this money to get far more distance out of our funding. Obviously, number 1, the track, we still kept that in there. We think that we can make sufficient repairs for that amount that will that'll fix the problems. Now, obviously, that's not going to put it into a competition level track, but that's not a need we have. We don't have a city track team. So doing that, obviously we've looked, now that we have the roof on the community center, we've started looking at making improvements to the flooring, replacing ceiling tiles, doing some renovations to the community center to give it a much needed facelift. We've allocated or suggested funding for that. We've known for a long time we need a garage for Parks and Rec. They've never had a place to park stuff out of the weather. They just had to stick it here, stick it there. This would enable us to do that. Put new fencing around the pool, something that's desperately needed. Resurfacing the tennis courts at City Park, replacing the bleachers at Southwest Point, which we're going to do anyway. Replacing the back playground at City Park, replacement of pool controls, renovations to the restrooms at the pool, and one of the things that I would suggest adding to this, which will probably be in about the $8,000 range, based on some conversations we've had since this came, would be to get a new pool cover for the pool. So this would enable us to do a whole lot of things. And again, these are just our suggestions, but based on JR and I looking into it, this is what we think would really take some items off our to-do list. And when you couple this with the investments that you've made in lighting, you're looking at probably the largest investment that's ever been made in our park system since its inception. So that's pretty noteworthy. But again, we wanted to bring this to you for your consideration. You may not want to do this. You may want to leave all that money in there for the track or do something else with it. But we feel like this is a pretty unique funding opportunity, and we'd like to move forward with these if you approve. So, and JR, like I said, JR can expand on everything that I've said if you have any questions.
Okay. Ms. Humphries.
I have a question. David, you said the pool cover. Are you referring to the liner or the cover?
No, we know that the liner's gonna have to be addressed, but the list I have here was totaled up to of course, again, being estimates, totaled up to about $491,000. We talked about the cover would be about $8,000, so I thought that's something we could stick in there and probably kind of make it an even $500,000, which is what's earmarked now. So that was just a thought.
Did we check and see, since JR had said we're going to need a liner, were you able to check and see how much that would be, JR?
I couldn't find the past quotes that we had, and the lady that we talked to wasn't there to give me a quote today, so she just got a little deal paperwork.
So we know we're going to need a liner, but we don't know right now how much it's going to cost, right?
Correct. And that that's something that that we'll include in our 5-year capital plan. And I don't know that that's something we need to do right now, but we need to do it soon, but I don't know that we have to do it this year. But we've needed a cover for years, and so again, these are just ideas. The money, this is not new money. This money's already been acquired. It's already been earmarked. It's just taking kind of a second look at how best to spend it. So,
I had a couple of other questions. On the garage for Parks and Rec, where were you going to put that?
Somewhere on the footprint of the city garage, probably somewhere between the. We looked at a couple different options. One option we've looked at is relocating or moving around the lot the police department has there between the garage and the sewer plant, somewhere in that area, but it would be somewhere on that footprint at the city garage.
And so if we just do the $150,000 to the track, is that basically just patching, or is that any resurfacing? What does that consist of, that $150,000?
I'll let JR answer that question better than I can.
Basically, it's filling all the cracks. They'll put some sort of rubber granules in there and heat it up, and it will form the cracks. It's supposed to last a good while. They'll mix that with latex and glue to hold still. That's 3/8 inch thick latex rubber track surface. So that will cover all the way around the track. Then they'll reline and paint, stripe, everything. He said it would look just as good as if we spent the $500,000, but it's all what you want to spend on it.
It'd have the same look as a competitive track. It just wouldn't have the thickness to qualify, but it would have a new surface per se on it.
How long do they think that top surface will last?
He really couldn't give a guarantee or a time frame. It depends on the surface underneath and a lot of different variables.
One of the things, and we looked at this when we were looking, if you remember, some of you that were on here, we applied for a grant several years ago to do a full reconstruction of the track. And at that time, the engineers that looked at it said, the good thing is it's separating this way and not that way. So, it may be that the cracks could get wider over time, but at least it's not shifting. So that says it's got a good solid base. So, there's no way of them telling us how long, it could last, but, if it's 10 years, then it's 10 years. So, and it's something we need to do. I mean, those cracks are, it is a safety hazard. I'm surprised that we haven't had people fall and, get a
The
foot
track
hung
was
in them.
packed yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there was
it-
a ton of people out there walking.
It's, it's not the most expensive fix out there, but it
But
could be a
will
good.
probably be sufficient for what the needs of a
I
track
think,
is.
I think so.
Could I ask one question on the track too? Is there any way we could find out from the company, is there something like if we see the track starting to crack again, is that something that we could get some kind of locked in price for them to come back in? Because I don't know what kind of warranty, if this has any warranty, and how much would they charge to repair it before it becomes that crater hole? It's kind of like a potholes. If we can fill it before it gets all that rain in it again, then it maybe is not going to spread that far. Exactly. Yeah. So, and then on the tennis courts, that's just the one tennis courts, not the one that,
Just the ones at City Park.
just the ones
Yeah.
at City Park. Is the other courts in good shape or okay, or
I don't
They
think
belong
we
to
own
the
those.
are they,
courts.
the county?
Yeah, they belong to
I always
the county.
think they was both ours.
The one that we share with the school owns, they really need repair, so Tim mentioned about me reaching out to the school and see if they was interested, if we do go ahead with this. Because, they could, but I know we're sort of in between on those courts, because I always heard, we can do this and that to them, but also the school. So yeah, really all 4 courts are in need of repairs.
Well, with that said, we might be able to get special pricing if this same company is doing all this work. I would think maybe this is same company. Is that the case, or?
Yeah.
And so maybe they could give some kind of price to be able to offer to the schools. If do they even have a tennis team now?
Yes.
So I would think that would be
Yeah.
something to be partnering with them.
And it could be possible that, if we do, if we could get the schools to agree to cover some of the costs, we could bid both courts out at one time and, split the project some percentage. We could work that out with them if they'd be willing to do it.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things that if you've got all these things that are being repaired, you would hate to see one court, if we not at least try to address it.
Well, my youngest son played tennis, and at the time they used wrong state. If they still are using wrong state, that's another issue. Those courts are pretty well gone too now. So if they did get all 4 courts fixed, I'm really not sure of the rules, but that might be, if they have 4 courts, they might could even host some of their games. So that could be something that might sell it if 4 courts is enough to hold it.
I'll reach out to them again, see.
Yeah, because I'm not interested in spending any more city money
Oh, no.
on the school system use until there is another agreement drawn up on use. Because we keep spending money on things to help them,
Right.
and it needs to be a partnership, and we
Right.
can't give and not have some kind of cooperation.
Right.
And that was kind of my thought. If when I mentioned maybe we could bid this out together, is do a joint bid where the county
Yeah.
fixes theirs, we fix ours, and we take advantage of
The
of
pricing.
Yeah. So
Got anything?
How much money is with the boat slip fund thing? Where the money be? Because that's supposed to go back to the waterfront, correct? Everything that comes off of the boat slips.
back into the boat slip maintenance is, I think, was the original. Was the way it was originally intended. Was the money would go back into any maintenance needed for the boat slips, and then whatever else on the waterfront. So yeah.
So do we know how much is in that account, or?
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, it's in the budget. I mean, we have a line in the budget for that, and we have a revenue line and an expenditure line. So, I mean, it's not like a reserve account. So,
I just wanted to call, we're talking about the money and stuff, and we've got all these fishing tournament stuff on the go that's in the Park and Recs about Ladd Park. I was just wondering if cause we need extra parking and stuff out there. We're getting the new.
well, I mean, we
boat
don't.
ramps and-
Yeah, the boat slip doesn't generate near enough money to look at that. But we have that grant pending for Ladd Park, which hopefully we'll get. If
Which
we,
we'll have to have a match for.
yeah. But if we don't, then yeah, we'll have to look at other funding options for that. But
Okay, I just wondering, how much it was, whatever, kind of it went back to the riverfront stuff.
I mean, I think we get was it about 27,000 a year in boat slip rental fees?
Right now, we're sitting at 12,400 that we've obtained this year, and we budgeted for 25.
25. So, it doesn't generate a lot, but, whatever it does,
We just think, it's gonna be a shame we're having all these nice boat where we're putting in the ramps and everything, and then they gonna have a big fishing tournament, and we can only park that many cars out there, boats.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the purpose. That's why we applied for the ARC grant, because that's pretty big. That'll be a pretty big budget item. Because I think we wrote it for 500,000, or actually whatever they give us
Yeah.
is what we asked for, and so we're gonna have to come up with a match for that if we get granted it. And that's the money that was gonna be used to expand the parking.
You all have already set aside, $100,000 for Ladd Park. So we have that to either go toward the match on this grant, or if we don't get the grant, to be the start of funding the parking
I'd just like to get
improvements.
it
So,
completed, if it's something, that would be done.
It's a little bit of a mess out there right now.
Yeah.
big time, but it'll be a great project when we get it. So.
To say the least. Anything else?
That's it.
Terry, you got anything else on this?
No, I do not. Thank
Mr.
you.
Brown, do you have anything?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I don't think people pass by me, do you?
No, I wasn't going to. You're just going down the line.
Guys, I was hard pressed to support the track, but I am eagerly wanting to support it after listening to y'all talk before. I'm glad to know that we're down from 500,000 to 150,000. My proposal would be to authorize the city manager to put out for bids the repairs to the running track, so that we've got hard figures that we know what we're talking about. What happens if it costs 160,000? I know that JR, I met with him today, and I walked the track, went to all these places. I went to every one of these places. JR was kind enough to walk me through the community center. It's gonna have something done to it. It looks like a red-headed stepchild, especially after all the work. But our commitment was to the track. And I know that it's been on TV, it's been in the newspaper, everybody's talking about it, and everybody's looking forward to it. I know that, again, we're providing something that we don't even use to the high school. High school has a track team, and they have no home events because they can't play on our track. So if this can come to light for 150, that's great. And the tennis court, I walked it, it's got cracks like this. Again, maintenance is part of the problems, and if we could get that guy, because our people, and I'm not talking about JR and his men, or Chase, or Rick, or anybody past us, that is a technical thing. I mean, you have to feel, that crack is probably that deep. You fill that crack with sand or something to hold your high-priced stuff, and you seal that, and then you fill it back up with a little bit of stuff. So, if we had done that, had somebody to do that for us when they first occurred, then the freeze thaw doesn't affect us as much, where, like Ms. Stockton say, it rains in it again, makes it deeper and wider. But again, after looking at all those, it appears to me that we need to bid that so that we've got a hard number, and include that with the proposed $25,000 for the city tennis courts. And if the county wants to talk to those folks, that's fine and good. But if we've got any money left, unlike Councilwoman,
What's her name?
Stephanie over here, is that somewhere, we've told everybody that we're gonna redo the fishing place out here, and we've started. If that's all we're gonna do, and like Councilman Child says, that we've got a 250-foot by 50-foot ramp, 4 lanes out there to put these boats, and don't have anywhere to park them, we're not doing any good. So I think we need to try to finish some things. So my proposal would be, and you may not like it or not, is to do that, to put those out for bid, roll the rest of it into the surplus money, into the reserve. We're at budget time anyway, and list those in the budget to see what we can do. I mean, that's just like the liner. I see where you're coming from to do the $500,000, $8,000. That's a small thing. You gotta remember that we still have, I think, some grant money that's out there that's one time that we haven't spent yet. How much is due? Not grant money, some state money that we received.
Yeah, we've got, we're in,
60-something thousand?
no, we've got, about 240,000, and we've got some stuff we're gonna be coming, an idea on that, that we're gonna be coming to you with later, so.
But if we could get a hard number for those 2 items and take a baby step, the other item on this list that looks like it's a hurry up deal would be the bleachers at the southwest point. We've already tore the old bleachers down because they were a safety concern. Had somebody get hurt and they wrote us up. And now then we've got a hole out there, and I think JR and David have found some bleachers that would, metal bleachers that would suffice, and that's where that $20,000 comes from. But now then, that's gonna cost a little more to fill up where the old bleachers were at. It's just a hole now that we were waiting for I'm assuming we were waiting for the lighting contractor to get out of the way, because he's got the old lights and poles laying in it now. But, the first day of baseball and softball started today. We did not have a home game. I think our first game for baseball is scheduled for a tournament with somebody week after next.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
March
think
15th.
we'll have lights out there by then. They ran wire all day today. But, I'm not gonna be ready to vote on this Tuesday night. It's on the agenda for Tuesday night. I'll be voting against it.
Ms. Rowley, do you have?
One of the questions I had, what is the issue with the back playground at City Park? I know it doesn't have a fence around it anymore, but is there an issue with the equipment?
It's falling apart.
It is?
Yeah.
And what year did we buy that? Do you know?
I don't know.
That goes back to when, I think April was here. I mean, it's probably at least 16, 17 years old.
It needs to be removed, so it's either a matter of we remove it and there's nothing there, or we remove it and replace it.
Yeah.
It-
Okay.
And can I just ask that one question? Is that something we can do for safety reasons now and have it removed if it's a safety issue?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I would just hate to have anything that a kid might play on that could get hurt, or anybody, but especially a child.
It's got a 4x4 piece of factory manufactured substance that's been replaced with plywood. I
Yeah,
think he's got some pictures. I want you to show
Yeah.
show him those pictures.
since I don't know if you all have received these complaints or not, but ever since we took the fence that was around that playground was atrocious. It needed to come down. But ever since it was taken down, we've had a lot of comments that we have no ADA safety playground for children that are flight risks, and considering it's at the lake. I do think that we need to consider at some point at least one playground in the city needs to have fencing of some kind, so people that have these children that are flight risks, they're able to take their kids to the park and play in a safe area.
Yep.
And I think we applied for the Healthy Places grant. We got turned down again. Hopefully we can apply for that next year, and hopefully second time's a charm, because that is something, and with our ADA plan, there's several things that we're going to have to look at, and that's why I feel like I'm kind of drowning in all this money that we've been spending lately. It's like something comes up, let's spend it here, spend it. I'm kind of we haven't really sat down and talked about planning for our city, what exactly our priorities are. So I would, we are coming up on budget, but, at some point, we are going to have to make investments that we see a return on. We don't have a budget for amphitheater concerts. We don't have a budget for bringing fishing tournaments in. We downtown dock, that seawall is in terrible shape, and people walk around that lake constantly, and it looks pretty bad around there. So I feel like we are in need of a planning session, and I know we're coming to the end of the 5 years on our the 5-year plan that we already have. So I know that'll need to be done soon, but
Well, we're constantly,
Yep.
it's constantly evolving, and
Yep.
so yeah, we're working on that now.
I think if you're gonna spend money on a playground, we don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have a playground that is handicap accessible
that
anywhere in the city.
was my point.
And
That
not only them fleeing,
Right.
but I'm talking about handicap accessible, because they all have mulch in them, and that's not handicap accessible.
Well, and one of the things I would ask is that you all consider, if there's items in here that you don't feel like we're ready for, or you don't agree with, pull them out. Whatever, every penny of this $500,000 is at your discretion to spend. That was one of the stipulations we made, we imposed on ourselves when we borrowed this money, was that every penny of it would get spent with council authorization. Don't throw the whole thing out if there's bits and pieces that you don't like. We've tried to kind of pick what we think are some of the big issues, but you may not agree with all of them. Maybe the playground isn't a priority. Maybe we tear that out. Maybe some of it. I agree with the running track, and that's why I put that on there first, because that was a need that we identified early on. But some of these things, I mean, we just we get complaints. I mean, look at our community center. I mean, it's atrocious, and it's looked the same that it's looked in the 10 years that I've been here, and probably 20 years before, and it just needs freshening up. And some of these things, like the bleachers at Southwest Point, we're going to do those regardless of where we pull the funding. Some of those smaller things, the pool cover, yeah, we can do those in our budget. Replacing the flooring and sealing tiles, the community center, stuff like that, we're never going to have money in the Parks and Rec budget. When you look over the last 10, 15 years at the increase in that budget, it's minimal. We're never going to have the money as far as funded taxpayer, funded from our operational budget to do these things. So, whether we do them now or we do them later, I would just ask, you don't let this die, because none of these needs, particularly the big ticket stuff, are going to get any better until we address them. So
I think we ought to start that ceiling tile. If y'all not walk that community center, you need to go down there and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
The ceilings are terrible.
yeah, the floor, it's embarrassing. It is, it really is. And again, we know that
we hear about it every year when they go in to use that voting location. People that don't spend time in our community center, that's pretty much the only time they're there, and that's when it really starts to ratchet up. People notice it. It's kind of like the school system. You don't know how these buildings are in bad shape, and you don't realize how bad it is until you actually walk through it. And I agree, the floor, ceiling tiles, and the running track, because it's a safety hazard, and I don't know about I know we need to replace that playground, but if like Ms. Stockton said, if it's a safety hazard, it needs to come down. I don't know how we need to word this to put some of these items on the agenda to vote on Tuesday, because I do feel like some of them do need to be taken care of expeditiously.
I think Councilman Brown's right. I mean, all we need is authorization to go to bid, to put out bids for the track. And my thought would be bid the truck, because it's the same company. It'll be the same. Bid the track and the tennis court in one bid.
Yeah.
And do that, and then my thought is, let's make this, because we have that money. It's not going anywhere. Let's make this a to-do list, and as we check one off, then move on to the next one.
Yeah, because the pool, after our meeting last night, the pool is also an issue too, and what we do with it, because if we're going to discuss making changes to the community center to make it a better community center, we kind of need to make some pretty difficult decisions on what we're going to do with that pool. And I'd hate to put all this money, although as long as it's running, we are going to need a cover, but for the end of the season. But I'd hate to put a lot of money into a pool, and we're still not, doing things to improve it. And if we're going to end up building another community center down the road, I would like to have a broader discussion about the pool in general.
Well, the controls, the controls are shot.
Okay.
We know that's going to have to be done. The liner, I don't know what it's on its end of life. The restrooms down there. I don't know if you've been in those restrooms where the showers are, but they
have not changed since.
It's bad. So those are things that we know we're going to do, but we're not going to do all these tomorrow.
And tell me about the fencing as well.
It's just old and looks horrible and needs needs replacing. I mean, that's probably the original fencing that was.
I have one last question. JR, I'm sorry, I've got one more question. And this is kind of far-fetched, and you tell me if it's not possible, but, we talk about the ceiling tiles, we talk about the floors at the community center. Have we taken out the ceiling tiles? Is it doable to remove the ceiling tiles and the ceiling grid?
You've got ductwork up there, and
is that something that can be painted and you expose the ductwork and you go, you wouldn't think?
No,
It's scary.
The wiring is pretty.
Yeah, we looked at that when we had the engineers in to meet with the roof, and I'd hope for the same thing, that we could take that out and make that look, I know the look you're talking about, the exposed, but there's just too much junk crammed up in there to ever make that work. But
the estimate on the tennis court, did they go through and list everything that they were going to do?
Yeah, and
Did they mention? I noticed that the poles that support the net, something's got to be done with it. That's pull. Anytime you keep cranking on anything, they're like this. You're pulling the top, you're pulling them in. I know when we fixed them at Rome County Park, we had to reset the poles while they had the thing up. But it's off center about 3 inches, leaning this way, one closest to the bird field. Just see if that's in there when you bid that. We don't want to get a new surface and it's still moving, and then it cracks the new surface when you're coming back in, is what I'm getting at.
We'd love to have funding for all this. We don't have the manpower or resources to do all these projects at once. So again, if we could get.
Can we put them all out to bid? Is that what we should agree on?
No, not at once. That would smother us. But if we could do, if next week, if we could do
The tennis court, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's do that and get that out of the way, and then by the time we're done with that, we may know whether we're getting the Ladd Park grant or not. If we get it, then we can go to the next item. But
Mr. Rippis, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, I do. First of all, a positive thing, I had a couple citizens mention how excited they are seeing that the lights are going at Southwest Point. And as far as the track and the tennis courts, whatever company that we go with, we need to make sure in writing whatever that they will come back and do repairs when they need to. Why I'm saying that, about 10 years ago, give or take, if I remember his name right, the girls tennis coach at Kingston, Stanley Keeling. Okay, yeah. He donated $34,000 of his own money down at wrong state. The wrong state wouldn't put no money in. And they looked real nice at first. And when they settled and started getting cracks and grass started growing up, the company poster came back and redo those, touch those up. They couldn't never get them to come back. So that's going. I mean, of course, that includes the track. Like I said, track and tennis course. You want to make sure whoever we go with, that we have in writing that they will stand behind their work.
And I doubt they will. I know that this this company that we got this estimate from, they won't guarantee the work.
Okay.
Now, they would come back and fix it at a cost, but they won't guarantee the work because
Base lever.
we're not
Base
doing,
level.
because we're just doing
Resurfacing type,
cosmetic
not
repairs.
from the bottom
Yeah.
up.
Well, whatever it was back then, when they supposed to come back, whether it was gonna give them some or not, which I thought back then they told Stanley they would do it. And they didn't, and I know hate to say it, within 2 years, a lot of that stuff started showing back up, the cracks, because they know how.
Oh,
So-
they'll start cracking
Yeah.
the moment you do the work.
But if we have a good company that will at least come back and do it, whatever repairs cost, then that'd be great.
Yeah, and it'll be, like some had said earlier, these cracks are old.
Yeah.
They've been there a long time. If we get to where, we're addressing this every couple of years, it's gonna be a lot easier and cheaper
Right.
before it gets like the Grand Canyon again. So,
And like we said earlier, the ones at the high school, which we're not in control of, there is one or two cracks that's starting to sink that could be a little liability. I'm surprised that nobody has not got hurt there, to be honest with you, which is not our courts. But when I say when you let stuff go too far, that's what can happen.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so, now my turn. The flooring and ceiling tiles, are we gonna do it in-house, or we're gonna bid that out?
We would have to, we'd have to contract that
Have to
out to
contract
do it
out.
right. We don't have the manpower to do that.
Let's see if we can put, on the agenda for Tuesday night, the repairs of the track and the tennis courts to go out for bid.
Okay.
And also the replacement of flooring tiles and ceiling tiles out for bid also.
Okay.
I don't know what we're gonna do about the bleachers at Southwest Point. We've got to have them.
All right, we've got a week turnaround time on those. So they're gonna go in regardless. We're gonna,
That's already done. The
So
purchasing.
We need to put that on the agenda.
no, I can do that. That's not gonna be above,
And can we bid the ceiling tile and the floor tile separate?
Yeah, I mean, I would,
yeah,
I mean, the ceiling tile is
Is-
world's worst.
Yes.
The floor tile
we can.
is bad, but
Work
We-
around it.
people aren't tripping over it.
and the estimate we had, and we put 150,000 in there. We got an estimate to come in and put, what do you call the kind of flooring that? Yeah,
Laminate?
that looks like wood flooring, but completely redo the flooring look in there just to totally freshen up the building. So we've got estimates at that. I don't know if we have an estimate, do you all, on the tiles, but that part we probably can do in-house. We'll just have to buy them.
Yeah.
But
I've got a total number of tiles that cost, let's see, total project cost of just us replacing the tiles, $23.57.
so that's something that we can do.
Order it, maybe a rainy day deal.
Yeah, but the flooring would be,
Okay.
we'd need a
Well,
professional to do
let's-
that.
Floor made out of.
It's,
What,
I'm not gonna say.
I don't know, I
I
probably,
don't wanna say either.
I think it'd be better to cover it.
We're going to cover it with it. We're going to leave it in. Our plan was to leave it in place and put
Yeah,
the new
let's-
flooring on
let's
top
leave it in
of
place.
it.
That way, if you find any 9-inch, it's not good. If you find any 12-inch,
Yeah,
it's better.
I know
Or
exactly
11.
where you're going with that. So,
So I guess bid the flooring and the ceiling tile separate.
well, we won't need to bid the ceiling tiles.
Okay, okay, bid the flooring and the running track and the tennis court. And we can chip away at these other stuff once we get further down the road and
Okay.
we've got a lot going on our plate, so let's get a little bit of it done at a time.
Yeah.
And it may be hard to find somebody to even come in and do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Good deal. Thank you.
Anything else on that? All right, so 7, discussion of notification and appeal rights for the cities regarding properties granted tax exemption by the State Board of Equalization. Councilmember Wright.
Okay, in the past couple of weeks, we were, it was brought to our attention that the assisted living facility in Brentwood was sold. It was actually sold 3 years ago. The new company that bought that facility went to the State Board of Equalization and got tax exempt status. So we have been missing out on around $16,500 a year since that happened. The city of Kingston never received notice that this was going to State Board of Equalization. State law shows that The property owner gets notice, the county gets notice, the city gets no notice. So, and we also had a right to appeal. We had no notice that it was happening, so therefore we couldn't appeal. So either, and Mr. Bowling can expound on this, but we could do either one or two things. Talk with the county and try to get some kind of notification when something is put into tax exempt status, or talk to the legislature to see if we can get, or the comptroller to see if, you know, there can be some kind of notice went out to the city as well. And another thing that I noticed in this, I thought in that when that property was changed hands, that they did not pay the personal property taxes that were due on it. And re-looking at that today, the title company that closed that did not pay the real property taxes on it. So that property still owes for 2016 taxes in the amount of $25,000, and that amount goes up every month. We probably need to get the city attorney into it, because this year is 2016 tax sale. So next year would be 2017, and I'm sure those people would not want the assisted living to go into a tax sale. So, and Mr. Bowling, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, I mean, you covered it well. I'll just, this did come up as part of that conversation where we didn't realize that it was off the tax rolls, and the reason we didn't is because we didn't get any notification to that effect. I mean, if we don't happen to notice something or have a reason to look it up, we don't know. And so I started looking through that to see what the process was once something goes before the State Board of Equalization. And as Councilmember Wright said, there's a provision in there to notify the depending on the decision they make, to either notify the applicant that it's turned down, or to notify the taxing entity, the county, that it's been exempt. And if it has been exempted, then the county has the right to appeal that. We don't. And my thought is, we're a taxing entity just like the county is. So I think both should be. I'd like to see the cities notified as well as the county, and that we also be granted the right to appeal. So, if this is something y'all would be interested in pursuing, I think maybe we get a resolution drawn up to that effect, and we present it to Senator Yeager, see if he can help us maybe get the policy. It's not a legislative issue, I don't think, would have to be changed, just getting the Board of Equalization's policy amended to include notification
right, okay.
and appeal rights.
Yeah,
So
I think that'd be probably the smart and the easiest way to do.
Yeah, even if they don't give us the right to appeal, we still should, the county, there should be some function that they tell us, hey, this is happening. This is the appeal process. Do you want us to appeal?
Yeah.
Just involve us in some way, so it's just not, we've lost our chance, and because this is now under tax exempt status of educational and charitable. So they're a 501(c). So that was a huge change that we had no idea, and we don't have assisted living facilities that are tax exempt. So it's quite a shock what happened there, and we had no way to know how that happened.
in a perfect world, yeah, you're right. The county property assessor would deal with this on our behalf and involve us in that.
Right.
But obviously that didn't happen.
Is that where the first tax exempt status goes to, is the county property assessor?
No, it's the exemptions are done by the state.
So it goes to them first.
It goes to them first, and then they look into it, they issue their ruling, and then they notify, again, the property owner and the county assessor's office in writing of what their decision is, and that they have 90 days to appeal. So
Well, I think probably the best thing to be do is probably to reach out to Senator Yeager and Representative Calfee and see what they might be able to do, and go from there. And if we have to do a resolution to them, we will.
okay, yeah, I can reach out to them and report back next month.
Okay, that'll be fine. They got it?
Yeah.
Item 8, discuss adoption ordinance 2203-08-1, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the city of Kingston fiscal year 21-22. Ms. Kelly. I know we've got a letter in here. If you got anything else to explain, or anybody's got any questions about what she's doing, we can figure it out.
I mean, I can just tell you, you know, as we closed on the 2021 series bond, it included refinancing most all of our debt that we had in the general fund. And I sat down to work on debt schedules for the coming year with the amortization schedules we have now. And looking at that and wanting to just make a revision, because I like to make our budget match up to what our books are going to look like, you know. I sat down working on that, and our first principal payment is lower than in coming years. And because of that, by the time we pay principal and interest with what we had originally budgeted for our debt service, we're going to have a savings of $101,790. And I sat here a couple of months ago when y'all were talking about we're buying a bucket truck and we're going to have to come up with money between now and then, and just seemed like a good idea to me to pocket that money back, put it in a assigned fund balance. That way, when the time comes, we don't have to get a loan for that, and you all can figure out, or we'll all figure out where to get the rest of the $34,000. So.
100% agree.
I mean, it's just,
Thank you.
it's a no-brainer, you know, and if I find things like this, I want to bring it to you because I think that's the best way to fund stuff if we have extra funds we
Absolutely.
find. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a no-brainer.
And then the other part of it is because we ordered the portable bathroom facility. We actually got that ordered today, paid our 30% down, but we had donation to go towards that $50,000, and we were going to take the remainder of that out of fund balance. So I needed to amend that $50,000 to allocate and get that all in line. So just a process to keep our books looking good and clean. And I try to get the numbers right for sure, whether I get the words or not.
No big deal, but when I got my packet, I read it.
Mr. Editor.
At least I know somebody's paying attention.
And we gotta bear in mind that this is only this year that we're allowed to do
Exactly.
this, because
Well-
one-time savings from
Right.
the way
From the-
we finance our debt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
So-
this goes back, and Michelle does a great job at this. You know, we used to, you'd get hit at the end of the fiscal year with this massive budget amendment,
Yep.
and you know, trying to
She's-
address these
This
as
is
they.
a much better
Going
way.
along
Yeah.
through the year.
Always try to say we need to do that. Well,
And we'll have more. I know we're gonna have one before the end of the year, but I just try to at least make it so blatantly obvious what we're amending and how we're doing that. But this will be set aside in a assigned fund balance, and if we hope the bucket truck comes in next fiscal year, but if it rolled into another fiscal year, it'll still be there
Right, it'll still be
until
there.
you all vote for me to take it back out of there.
Okay. So we'll add that to the agenda for Tuesday. All right, discussion approval of disposal of surplus items. There's a short list. Kelly, is anything else going to be added to that list? Mr. Brown?
I've got something. Guys, you know, we're coming to the end of the lighting at Southwest Point. We've got all those poles and lights that are sitting out there. And talking to JR and the city manager, we only have used for maybe very few fixtures. No wooden poles or anything like that. Some of the light fixtures are the same as on Bird Field, so it makes sense for us to try to find the very best ones, put somewhere in case we had if nothing else, the bulbs and the elements and all that kind of stuff. But I would recommend that we go ahead and surplus them and get rid of them. I know the Optimus Club wants some of them. They've got the same light fixtures. They presently have, I was out there last night with them, they've got 4 light fixtures that are out. We could, and Madisonville has called, their baseball people down there have called. They've got a field that they may use the poles and stuff for. Oliver Springs called me, said that they had a need for some. They're already putting in their underground cable, ditching or trenching. But if we could get somebody to take these in the next 2 weeks,
That'd be good.
that way we wouldn't have to move them. We save money by getting rid of them.
Give them away.
Vandalism, 1 or 2 of them's already broken. They've broken the glass out of them already
That's nice.
because they're just laying there. but I'd like to add those on to.
Would you all be okay with authorizing us to, like you said, if somebody, an entity like that will come get them, to give them to
Yes.
them? I mean, because we put them on gov deals, they're going to go up for bid for whoever, and maybe we'll get bids, maybe we won't.
Right.
But, you know, if we put them on gov deals, we're going to have to house them and make them available for inspection while they're listed. We need to get them out of there,
If-
so.
You know, I don't think we can get enough on gov deals for us to even have to fool with them. I think that we need to keep the best ones for what we need at Bird Field and whatever the Optimist Club needs. And
That's, that's the only ones for sure we know we're gonna get rid of by the time. The problem may be, we have to come back again and nobody, they come up and look at them. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't use them.
Yeah.
Because I'll be real honest with you, the best lights out there are the Atomic Speedway lights, but they're the worst lights for ball fields. I don't think anybody's gonna be able to use them for a ball field now. You
Yeah,
just
I don't
need
either.
one pole light to put out next to your lake property and maybe boat dock or something would be great.
Did you say Oliver Springs is needing something?
Yes.
Well, we're using their
Deals, we did the
bucket
same
trucks, so-
thing, took a trip to
so
Atlanta
give it to 'em.
and,
Georgia looked at
and
those
found
lights, and they
junk,
were-
so.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't think a lot of these lights are gonna be very useful for a lot of stuff, and I think we keep the best ones, what we need for Bird Field, and then whatever the Optimist Clubs needs, and get that place cleaned up best we
I can see
can.
people wanting metal poles
Yeah.
off of a softball field, because they're still pretty good. They still have one pole there to take down, they haven't taken down yet, and we still got the one pole that the electricity's running in, which is no lights on it, it's just a wooden pole that we gotta take out, but all the rest of them on the soccer field, they're laying on the, outside the track, the 4 poles and lamps,
Mhm.
and the rest of them are laying behind the outfield fences, and in the way of, if we don't do away with them the next 2 weeks, we've gotta start moving
We
them,
gotta move them somewhere.
gotta move them.
If we put this on the agenda next week, I mean, obviously, we'll do the other items that are on here our traditional way, but would you all be okay with JR and I finding ways to get rid of them?
I do, I feel comfortable with that.
And
I mean-
want me to go ahead and recontact or give them
Yeah,
contact you all
absolutely.
and let them, nothing else come down
Come
tomorrow
look
and
at-
say, here, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. and we-
I think so. I
Yeah,
think
tell them
that's,
if you want them, you better come
Better
look
tell us
now.
now, and you're in pecking order.
Yeah, I mean,
Not-
Let Oliver Springs come first before we go out of county.
yeah. I mean,
Especially since we're using their bucket truck.
Since you
Yeah.
borrowed their bucket truck.
Yeah, if they're gone, so if we get lucky and they're gone next week, then I'll let you know.
I think Thomas and some of them are kinda into it about the lights up there a little bit. Somebody did stuff they weren't supposed to do.
do you have anything else? Ms. Griffiths, do you have anything?
No.
Ms. Wright?
I don't.
Mr. Brown?
No.
Ms. Duncan? Mr. Childs? Ms. Humphries? I need to start going that way around the room. Go ahead.
Hey, David's always wanting me to talk and stuff like this. He gives me a hard time, but no, I just wanted to tell y'all that this afternoon, the last report I ran showed our unrealized taxes collected was 52,000, and I have a public utilities I'm hoping comes in the mail tomorrow with a February 28th post date of 21,000. So I think that's really
Very good.
good. That's only an unrealized of 2.62%.
Very good. Thank you. Next time I'll go. You. Okay. I think the only thing I had on the portable bathroom, you answered that, and then I assume the lighting's going real well at the ball field. So that's all I had. Unless anybody's got anything else.
Sidewalk's looking good.
Sidewalk, we get concrete. It is
Got
scheduled.
we've got them scheduled to come Thursday, and we'll get what they can bring us, and then our hope is to do it every week. You know, weather's kind of funny,
Yeah.
but we'll have another delivery this Thursday,
No.
weather permitting.
You
So
got any calls about out here at the boat ramp? I got a call that they were complaining because they didn't like what we were doing. If anybody calls you, you know, we're out of the low water part. That doesn't hurt us anymore. We're pouring concrete. We've already got the first slab poured with the rebar sticking out. That's the end that's gonna be 250
the water.
foot out in the lake.
Yeah.
Okay? And then somebody told me that when he looked at it, and this guy should have known because he's a boatman, well, it's awful rough looking. Well, it needs to be rough on the boat ramp. Don't need finished concrete because you keep walking, that's gonna be out there. But we need to have a little party out there when they push it. If you follow me on Facebook, I put on a couple of things. That's how they'll actually do it. They're gonna use one of our bulldozers, I think.
Well, it's a little messed up right now.
Yeah.
They've got some issues out there that what they poured is already in the lake and it shouldn't be, and so,
But they still gotta push, so,
yeah.
but, they weren't there today. I hope they get back.
I don't think we won't be, the way I understand, they won't be able to come back till the water goes back down now, so.
We're gonna go back down.
It probably will go down a little bit, but I don't think it'll go down a whole lot like it was.
They're saying it's supposed to, if the weather cooperates, they're supposed to draw it back down. But, you know,
It was as low as I've probably ever seen it
Ever
about
been.
last week
We
before the.
don't let that stop us,
Right.
so.
All right, we got anything else? All right, meeting adjourned. You see the score? We're getting beat. We're getting beat.
Where did you need the flag pole? Where'd you need the flag pole at?
Oh, I needed one over there.
Oh.
But that was, she got it taken care of, you know.